Hey, I'm Brianna Hosack, and this is the Bingeable Business Trainings podcast, bringing easy to follow and wildly informative, high-value trainings for spiritual women starting out in online entrepreneurial businesses. These training topics were crowdsourced based on the needs of the women in my business supporting group coaching membership called the Butterfly Network, in which I share my own successful entrepreneurial business knowledge going back all the way to 2012 when I started my first business, and encompassing multiple tens of thousands of dollars invested in coaching and training since then, so that you don't have to take food off the table to get your business off the ground like I had to once upon a time. As a certified advanced level shamanic practitioner and a level 2 certified holy fire Reiki practitioner, I bring a level of spiritual understanding and feminine flow to the deeply structured and disciplined masculine go. And as an authentic business leadership coach and mentor, I teach you the way to run your business that works for you and your unique life without all the cookie cutter crap, while stepping into leadership of yourself, your family, your community, and the world. If you'd like to find out more about the Butterfly Network membership, you can find more information in the show notes of any episode, and if there are spots available at any given time, enrollment is open. In the meantime, listen in for tons of free value and clear coaching advice so you can take your business from idea to sold in no time. If you do find value here, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with anyone you think it might help. And if you're ready for high value coaching support and powerful sisterhood with other women in business, all at a record low price, crawl on over into the Butterfly Network membership, Caterpillar. Let's get you your wings. Hello, everybody. I'm going to pull up the questions that we already had for Dallas so that those are ready. If any of you have questions that you've thought of since then that you haven't dropped in that chat, feel free to drop them in the comments. I will do my best to try to keep on top of the comments today. And yeah, let's get started. So welcome, Dallas. Thank you for coming and joining me today to do this. This is something that I believe will be very, very helpful for my ladies here in this group. Most of the ladies in this group are either just starting out in business or maybe have been struggling to get off the ground kind of with their business. Financial mindset and literacy to me seems like a very important piece of getting off the ground. So super excited to have you here today. We have lots of questions to go through today.
Okay, I'm excited for this.
Yes. Okay, so just to start out, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let us know who you are, what you do, so that they know. So
fair enough. Okay, so my name is Dallas Sleeman. I think that's already out there, but I am a financial life coach, and I've come at it from a holistic perspective. And I feel like the origin story is important. So essentially what it came down to is I've been in the financial industry for almost 10 years now. And when I started in the financial industry, I had the bare minimum of literacy. I knew you should be saving money. I knew that a good place to put it would be an RRSP or maybe a TFSA, but I didn't know which one was better for what.
right.
And I ended up going from a very nicely cushy salaried job into being self-employed in the financial industry. And it was a really steep learning curve for both self-employment and financial literacy. And throughout that process, I ended up leaving a significant relationship where I had, additional financial support. And all of a sudden it was just me, and I had to make all of the decisions. And I kept having this wall that I came up against, and it would be like, well, I know I should do this, but what are people going to think if? And I realized that a lot of the judgments I was having were judgments on myself. The people around me didn't actually care what I did. They cared that I was taking care of myself and that I was happy. And so in going through that process, one of the things that I started doing, and so my previous career slash business is as a mortgage broker. I started talking to my clients differently. And what I would often hear is, I make good money, but I have no idea where it's going. I have a ton of debt. I don't know how to pay it off. I'm scared to talk to the bank, and I'm scared to talk to a financial advisor because I'm scared they're going to judge me. And it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And so in the process of having those conversations, I started coaching my clients. And it was always so rewarding to see them go from not being able to qualify for mortgage financing to qualifying to buy their first home. And the more I did that, the more I realized, oh, there's a bigger need for this. And maybe I should take this outside of the mortgage business and take it to an independent sector so that I could provide that safe space, that haven to really come sit down and unpack all of the baggage that we have around our money. The emotions we carry around money when we feel like we're not doing well are so heavy. The anxiety, the fear, the guilt, like all of these things. And we need safe people to have these conversations with.
Oh my God. That's amazing. This is the second conversation I've had today about having safe places to have conversations. So I think that's just amazing. I think that's a really, really great starting point. I love what you said about, there's a few things. So first of all, I totally understand the feeling of like walking away from that financial safety when you walk away from a relationship where you have two incomes contributing to like that whole picture. That is very scary. I did it not that long ago either, so I totally understand. And it is not easy either. It is like with inflation, with things like that, to have only one income is hard.
Yeah.
Like just straight up, it's hard, right? Also, the whole like I'm scared to go talk to the bank because I think that they'll like basically laugh me out of the door, right? Like I feel that deeply because it's just like my credit personally got completely destroyed when I consolidated all of my debt 14 years ago now, and I didn't know at the time that that was basically like going bankrupt. So for 7 years, my credit was shot, right? And that is, that's so drastic, like bankruptcy or, things like that, that is so drastic on your credit, right? So it has been that like climb through quicksand and try to get out kind of a feeling. So I feel all of these things very, very strongly. Okay. So what led you specifically to becoming a financial life coach? Like that was just the wanting to get it out of the corporate sector into like the more like where it was just more individualized and more personalized so that people felt safer? Is that kind of the...
It was a combination of things. Life has a way of making you really uncomfortable when something needs to change. And so in my previous business partnership, it just became very apparent that we had different priorities within the business. We wanted different things, and we couldn't build the business my former partner wanted and the business that I wanted at the same time. Like the visions just did not coalesce at all. And so it led me to a lot of soul searching of what actually lights a fire in my soul. Like what makes me feel fulfilled every day. And it was 100% working with the clients on really just understanding their financial maintenance and how to move forward. And it was also this desire to expand the practice beyond like just this is what I see on your credit bureau, this is what you need to do to fix it. I really wanted to dive in deeper. And so the structure that I've built within my coaching model is one that has it's a 3-pillar aspect. And so we dig into the numbers, and I do a cash flow assessment and a credit assessment. The number one thing we have to do to start with is create awareness about where we're at right now. And so that requires an assessment. Where's the cash flow going? What's happening with it? And the standard is to go back 3 months and code all of the transactions. And I know for a lot of the people that I spoke to, they're like, that is scary. That's a lot of work. They hit a wall instantly. They're like, nope, not doing that, not going there.
Like literally me up until a month ago.
Yes.
Not lying. I was like, nope.
Nope.
I had my accountability coach on me. Like, have you done any transactions? Have you done any? I'm like, nope. No, I haven't. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I fought that so hard.
Yeah. And it's such a piece of resistance. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can help by taking that off of your plate and going back and looking at where everything is. And then the numbers themselves tell a story. The numbers of what's happening, it tells a story of where you're at. Oftentimes I can feel as I'm working through the bank statements, the emotions that are happening behind the scenes. In some cases, I felt the anxiety coming through very, very strongly. And then when I spoke to my client afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, through the roof. And so having that intuitive sense and being able to feel those things really allows me to understand a bit more of that story as well.
That is super cool. Like, you don't hear that very often, that intuitive side of it. That is amazing, because even looking at the numbers, I will say, like I said, I literally just finally did this for myself last month, and it was like I pulled all my teeth. Like, it was painful kind of thing, right? And yeah, but like there's no, while I have a better picture of like, okay, this is what my finances actually look like right now, which is amazing, and it helps me to be more aware with my spending and stuff. There's no tie-in to the why.
Yeah.
So that is really powerful. I love that. So I know that it's not just intuition though. You also bring Reiki in with your financial coaching. So how can you tell us a little bit about how Reiki and energy work play into your coaching? Aside from just the intuition.
Aside from just the intuition, it comes down to bringing the mind and the body out of the fight, flight, or freeze response. There we go. Because when we're in that sector, our logical mind is very shut down. We can't make the same decisions that we normally would. And what I find with the Reiki is it's multifaceted in how it actually works with the coaching. Not only does it help to just generally rebalance the energy and help bring the nervous system into a more calm state, it also allows me to see where there's certain blocks happening. And what I've found that is really, really interesting is for essentially all of the clients that I've seen so far, I work with what's called the crystalline energy grid. And so there's 3 energy centers below the feet and 3 above the head. And especially my clients who are very intuitive and spiritually inclined, they're all very connected to the upper energy centers. They're very connected to their spiritual points. But when I get down to the earth-based centers, the energy is either very slow or compromised. And so it's like there's almost no connection into the earth energies. And if we think about what money is, it's very much a 3D earth-based energy that we're working with. And so
absolutely. And a grounded, like when you think about like root chakra, even like that low chakra, right? That's your finances, that's your foundations and your feelings of safety and all of that. So that makes so much sense. Yeah.
And so it's very much about bringing balance back in there, removing blocks. There are times when I'll have like little flashes of something that happened within a relationship, and it's just with that, I can pull it forward, and having my coaching background, have that conversation while the client's actually on the table, if they're inclined to have the conversation at that time. And so I can help to move some of that energy and remove some of the energetic blocks around money. And then the other part of it is really digging into the mindset and the belief systems, and really understanding, like, what did we grow up believing about money? Does that still ring true for us? And how are we going to shift those beliefs? And how can we create a more positive mindset when we're dealing with money? And a lot of times that positive mindset comes down to, when we're feeling that anxiety, how do we calm the anxiety so that we can take more productive, proactive steps with our money, as opposed to reacting to the emotions that we're feeling?
Wow. That's incredible. That is really incredible. And I can like the ladies are like, is saying it makes so much sense being related to the root chakra. And also, like, yeah, those lower chakras also, I think a lot of people aren't as aware of those. The only one I know of is the Earth Star chakra, like the next one down. I don't know the ones below that. So that's incredible. Kelly is saying she loves that. There's she's also a Reiki practitioner, so I could see, like, you know, I love that this is tying in. Leanne has lots of questions for us, so that's amazing.
Yes.
And I'm like writing them down so that we make sure we don't miss anything as we go through here.
I'm gonna grab this one, and it says, how do you get your partner or spouse interested or willing to get involved with Reiki? That one I find really interesting, because as of yet, I haven't had to convince anyone to really try the Reiki. Actually, no, that is incorrect. There was one client I had where I initially started working with her, and she was not sure about it at all. And she's like, I researched it, and I don't really see the scientific evidence behind it. And so my response to her was, tell you what, I'll give you one session complimentary, and I'll let you decide. So I offered one session to her, and I said, try it out, see how it feels, and I'll let you tell me if you want to continue with that. And after the first session, it was an absolute grand slam. We now do coaching and then Reiki on intermittent schedules, and she will text me and be like, something's up with my energy, I need some help. And so at the end of the day, I feel like it's one of those things where it can be really hard to describe. And if you're having a hard time getting somebody on board, just seeing if they're willing to give it a shot and just test it out, like no conditions, nothing attached to it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And so far, I haven't had anybody be like, nope, not doing this again.
Yeah, I can't see that, because every different type of Reiki that I've experienced is incredible. So it would be really shocking for someone to be like, I didn't like that. No way.
Right.
Kelly says that's such a great combination to offer, right? That's amazing. I think I definitely understand where this is coming from in like a past sense, where my partner, my husband, would not have he was very closed-minded. So like I don't even know if he would have tried a free session, to be honest. Like, just I think he might have just been like, that's weird, and no. There's a reason that we're not together anymore. Right? Do men feel comfortable? I think you mean like with Reiki, or with is like that with Dallas?
Like when they're actually on the table. I would say that for the most part, they've been, I always offer a post or a pre-session chat and a post-session chat where we're talking about exactly what to expect. And the magic of Reiki is it can be completely hands-free. And so as long as they're comfortable with laying on a table and even just like having a sheet thrown over them or not, like whatever they're comfortable with, if they can be comfortable in that aspect, I can do all of my work without even having to touch them in any way. And so it really just comes down to, I think the messaging around it is not over promising and saying like, oh, this is going to solve all of the problems, but hey, what if something could help you reduce your stress? Like, what is it that we're trying to do? And if it's reducing stress or just have a nice, relaxing experience, something like that, if you can talk about it in those aspects, then it gets a little bit easier to accept. And if they're just not open to it, then it's not their time yet, because we can't force people to do anything. And even that,
Yep.
let's say the wife is open to doing Reiki and the husband isn't, the energy shifts that are happening in the wife are going to start to be reflected in the common energy within the relationship. And so it's still going to have an effect on both partners.
Absolutely. And I think like when it comes to relationships, it's a scary thought, but literally either they are going to evolve with you or you're going to grow apart. Like there's, and I don't ever believe that anybody should hold themselves back just for a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like growth is important. It's a big part of life. And so if they're not willing to grow, if they're not willing to learn, then, and it doesn't mean like, oh, they have to do what I do, but they have to be willing to be alongside you as you grow. Right. And if they are in your energetic space, their energy will change or it will clash hard with yours, right? Like that's what I've found. So that's what happened with me. Kelly says she's been a Reiki master practitioner since October and her husband just finally started asking for a Reiki session. That's amazing. My family uses me as the litmus test for things, Leanne says. But see, that's amazing. That means that they trust your opinion on it, right? So you can go and try it and then be like, this was incredible. Here's my experience. And then they're going to be more open to trying it after that, right? So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's if they see changes happening in you, they're going to start to be curious about how and why that's happening. And if they like what they see, they're going to be like, I want some of that too.
Yeah. And I think the brilliant thing is that it's not like what you're doing is not just concrete financial coaching and it's not just Reiki, it's the combination. And so there's both pieces for both parties at the same time. And I'm curious, like if there were a couple that came to you to both work with you and say the husband, for example, wasn't willing to do the Reiki part, but was willing to do the coaching, would you be open to doing that? Like just being like, yeah, I'll just work on the coaching with him and we can do both with you kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would do that. Yeah. Because I really truly believe that if there's something.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
All good. But if the husband is willing to show up in the coaching room to start with, then that's already a good start. And there may be some times where, honestly, it's the intuition that counts as well. I don't necessarily need to have somebody on the table to do the energy work for my intuition to kick in. And so where it is in coaching sessions, and I do, when I'm working with a couple, I do tandem sessions where both people are together, and then I do an individual sessions with each one of them. Because given our histories with money, like 32% of couples have ongoing disputes around money and how it's spent and everything else like this. Those like that happens within a relationship, and oftentimes it's because we're bringing our own stories and our own baggage in. And so there may be things that each partner isn't willing to talk about in front of their spouse, certain things that they may not know how to bring up. One thing I found is that while I was brokering, oftentimes I would get calls from one spouse or the other spouse, and they'd say, my husband or wife doesn't know that I have this credit card. How is it going to affect our qualification? What can I do about it? And so having those conversations initially when it's both people in the room it's not going to go well. And so we have to actually look at what's happening individually and make it so that that person is comfortable showing up full on in the sessions together. And a lot of times it comes down to finding the common ground, because how we view money is going to be different from person to person. One person may be the connector type, where they use their money to socialize and go for drinks with friends, and it's really important for them to maintain that aspect. Or another partner may be like the saver, where they don't really desire that same connection and they want to save. So how can you find the common ground between those two viewpoints?
Which is a beautiful thing that coaching can help bring in. So that's amazing. So when you work with people, are you, is it kind of like an ongoing thing usually? Is it for a certain time frame usually? Is there like a normal package that you do, or is it very, very flexible based on what people need?
I do everything custom to the client.
Okay.
The initial process for all clients is somewhat the same, where it's the initial discovery call where we really dig in and see, okay, what are the pain points that you're aware of? What are the goals that you want to set up, and where do you want to go? From the discovery session, I go into the cash flow assessment, and I actually code all of the transactions, and it's just one of those things where I create the story out of the numbers, and then the next session is another coaching session where we actually go through all the numbers together, and we look at where things are at. We start talking about what needs to be tweaked, how can we tweak it. There will be moments when I'm helping a client create a spending plan, and they'll say to me, I know this number is too low. For example, like an entertainment number. And they're like, okay, I know I usually spend about this much, but I want to, cut it back, even though I know I'm not going to be able to stick to it. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can't stick to a number for whatever reason, you're setting yourself up for, giving yourself permission to beat yourself up for failing at something. So we need to find something that is actually going to work. And what can come up is, well, I don't feel like I deserve to be able to spend this much money on myself. Or Absolutely. I don't feel like I deserve an entertainment budget, period. Because oftentimes what I'll see is when there's debt that needs to be paid down, clients will want to take out everything that is related to entertainment or, unnecessary spending. And that doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work. Right. We need to find a balance between.
It's like quitting anything cold turkey, right? Like you end up craving it so hard, and then it's so hard to stay off of whatever it is. So that makes
you end up binging and spending even more than if you had have just allowed yourself the leeway to do the thing in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. One of the questions that we had prior to the call was, how can I change my mindset about money and still be practical, down to earth, and honest with myself and others?
Okay, so I feel like one of these things that often happens around money and the spiritual realm, for lack of a better term, is it's this idea of, oh, just call it in and it's fine. Like, all you have to do is envision it and it'll come to you. And it can feel really defeating to sit there and be trying really hard to manifest something and having it not come through. And so when it comes to the initial shift on the mindset, I believe that the biggest thing is, once again, being able to be aware of when you're hitting that spiral of negative emotions and having the tools to be able to move yourself a step back. And that can look like something around, doing breath work or a sensory meditation, something like that. One of my favorite ones is feeling the ridges of my fingertips on my fingers. And I will just sit there and I'll focus on my breath and just sense what's happening with my fingertips. And that can bring you down out of that fight or flight state fairly quickly. And then when you go back in and you're once again looking at the numbers, it's okay, what is realistic for me right now? Sometimes when we're in that position of just barely paying the bills and buying the necessities and feeling like there's no room for savings or no room for debt repayment, it can become really disheartening. And there isn't a magic wand fix to it. Unfortunately, when we're self-employed, we have to create the revenue sources. And that can come down to what are our belief systems around what we actually deserve. And do we feel that we are in a position that we can ask our going rate? Oftentimes, what I find is we don't value ourselves or our skills, and so we ask for lower than average rates on what we're actually providing to people. And so it's about shifting that mindset to, yes, it's okay for me to make money. And even if I'm a healer, it's actually divinely guided for me to have like financial wealth. So yeah, it's one of those things, that mindset piece.
That's amazing. I think especially what you were saying about the healer thing, especially, like, I know a lot of my ladies are very spiritually inclined, right? So that healer wound kind of a thing where we're afraid to charge what we're worth, or to charge anything at all, right? Sometimes there's even that. It's a matter of like, okay, back in the day they didn't charge for their services, but they were paid for their services. There were exchanges, there were services given to them in exchange. And just because we're not in a barter system now does not mean that we don't deserve to have something in return for what we give. And actually, like, so from my perspective, shamanically, you are not going to be in right relationship with anything if there is not energy exchange, if there's not an equal energy exchange. So you want to, if you are providing services for free or very, very low and not actually, charging your worth, you are the one out of balance. It's not actually the client that's not paying you enough that is the issue. It's you not charging enough that is the issue. Kelly says, how do you respond to people who tell you that your prices are too high for healing? Don't work for them. Don't work.
That was 100%.
Sorry, that's your question.
Yeah. Like it's a little bit flippant, but the people who actually understand what we're doing will understand the value and why we're actually charging what we're charging. And so it's a question of, are we actually working with our proper people, the people that will happily create that energetic exchange? One of the marketing
from a business perspective, like maybe educating our audiences a little bit about like what is actually involved in our services and how much goes into it. Because energetically, it's a lot. Like when I only did business and like very concrete stuff, it was actually a lot easier to be a coach. Now that I include the energy part of it, there's a lot of maintaining my own energy that goes into that. And in, even in maintaining like crystals and all of that, like that all takes time. Smudging takes time. Opening sacred space takes time. All of these things are not, they may not happen on the coaching call, but so much more goes into what I do now than it ever did before. So I think education is a big part of it as well, making sure that people are aware. And if you're getting that response a lot, the likely thing is that your audience isn't aware of what all goes into their services that they're receiving.
Yeah, right? It's either the audience isn't aware of what they're receiving, or we haven't actually come to terms with our own value and our own ability to feel like we deserve what we're asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And absolutely our mindset and energy can come through in that way where then we're calling in those wrong people. Janine, is get bent an option?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That's the thing is, usually as healers, we tend to be the nice people, so we don't say things like that, but it is absolutely an option. And I don't mean that you're not nice, Janine, because that's just you, like, you are authentic, and I love that about you. So true. There's time on the back end of the in-person time. It's huge. Energetically, there's so much time. And even Leanne, I'm sure for you with the massage stuff, it's probably the same thing, right? I'm sure you have your own energy, things that you need to handle. So, okay. So another question that was put in before, how can a budget help me get out of debt when there simply is not enough money outside of bills and necessities? And I think, I think we've kind of covered that a little bit, because as you work on that mindset, as you work on the energy, it ends up, you're either bringing in more or you're cutting out things that aren't aligned, or you're, and you wind up having, we have an idea of what our bills and necessities are. That is not always a very true idea. Right. So, do you have anything else you want to contribute on that one before because I know we kind of talked about it. I just want to make sure that we're
you basically summarized it perfectly. And the other thing that I would challenge there is that if we're not actually in the numbers and looking at the numbers, there's going to be things that we're not aware of. And so if you are in that space where you're reviewing your transactions on a regular basis and you're very up on everything that's happening, then it is going to come down to that energetic shift, the shifting of the mindset, feeling comfortable, charging enough that we can start to live off the services that we're providing and doing all of those things. But what I often see is there are areas within the spending that even though we're aware we're doing it, we aren't aware of exactly how much we're spending in any given area. And so it's so easy to just, grab a Starbucks or, grab something on the road if you have kids and you're running to activities and doing all of these things. And that $5 here and there, it can add up really quickly. And so just building that awareness around what the actual numbers are. And oftentimes when I bring the numbers back to my clients, they'll say, okay, I had a feeling that was where one of my issues was, but I didn't realize it was that much. And so,
right. And I think too, like, again, I'm going just off of personal experience because I'm not a financial coach, but like for me, it was a matter of when I planned for those expenses, I didn't end up bouncing other payments and having late fees or having, bounce fees or things like that because my money was being spent at the wrong times and in the wrong places. And so like I had enough money to cover everything. It just wasn't being used in order, if that makes sense. And so like for me, it was really a matter of like, okay, I know that I'm going to spend this much in a month on that stuff. Great, fine. That's okay. I can accept that. I've now, at least, I didn't always, but at this point now I'm like, yeah, I'm worthy to spend that money. But if I don't plan that ahead, all of that extra goes to bounce fees, goes to late charges, goes to, all of that. So that's really important. Janine had also asked in the chat beforehand in response to that question. I'm always wondering that when I barely spend any money outside of paying for my monthly bills, what's left over goes to fuel and my son's grad fund. There doesn't seem to be an end to those grade 12 fees. Yeah. And there are times where sometimes our expenses are just really high. So that, like, what do you suggest if somebody is in that kind of a situation where it's like, literally they don't spend anything? And I have been there as well, where I did not go out. I did not spend anything. And I still couldn't pay all the bills, right? So what do you suggest in those kinds of situations?
Those situations,
is that energetic?
It is there is a big energetic component to that. And on the concrete money side, I would look at things like phone bills, internet bills. Oftentimes what I find is we lapse out of contracts or something happens and we go from paying, $70 a month for our internet to $140 a month for our internet. And so if we can, create a little bit of extra cash flow in those pieces. I've had couples be able to save like $150 a month by talking to their phone companies and changing their phone plans or creating a family plan together, things like that. So sometimes there can be,
and that's not nothing. $100 a month is not nothing. Like it may seem like, chump change to millionaires and stuff like that, but when you are stuck, when you are like, I have the exact number of dollars to pay my bills and I can never go buy a coffee, so therefore I don't see my friends and I'm depressed and I'm like, all of these things, it's like that $100 can be huge. That can be life-changing. So that's incredible.
And I think too, even from an energetic aspect, when it comes to paying bills, if we can start having a different mindset around that, even because oftentimes what we'll do is we have to pay a bill and it's that gross, yucky feeling of, oh, I don't want to give you my money when I have so little of it. And that perpetuates that energetic cycle. And so if we can flip that to, okay, so my power bill is $150 this month. You know what? I am so grateful that I had the ability to run my business from home because my laptop worked off that power. I was able to cook my food. And I think about all of the things that $150 allowed me to do is it makes it so much easier to hand that money over. And I think that's true for taxes as well. Like being self-employed and paying those taxes, man, there were moments where in my previous company, I was submitting the payroll remittances and it's like, crap, this is a lot of money. And it was like, there is always that, oh my goodness. But when we can take it back again and say, okay, so I paid income tax. That means I have a hospital to go to. I don't personally have kids, but my friends have schools that they can send their kids to. All of these things, it's our way of actually supporting the society around us. And so being aware of the energy that we're putting into it.
Right. And even I think, again, if you have the financial awareness and you're doing it proactively instead of reactively, you can save for those things and not have this big bill slap you in the face, right? Which is, I think, what a lot of us do before we start working on our financial mindset and on our financial literacy. Like I definitely am still growing in this area, even myself, right? This is not my strength. Math is not my thing. Numbers are not my thing. And finances were like, I'm just not going to open my bank account and hope that there's money there. Like,
it's so true.
Yeah,
and like
that's
one practical thing when it comes to taxes is creating a separate account for them. And so having it set up so that you have money come into your business, like what your profit is, like what you'll pay tax on, but having that awareness and automatically every week's taking that 18 whatever it is and tucking it into a secondary account that you can't see. You don't want it to be on your usual banking app, so that it's there and it doesn't tempt you, because out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So how often do you recommend that people do a financial review?
I think when we're starting out, and if this is the very beginning of the journey, then there's two ways that we can start. And one way is doing the traditional, like go back 3 months and code all of your transactions and see where the money is going. Or if that feels really scary and overwhelming, start writing down what you're doing for your transactions. Like, start today. It could be on your phone in like a notes app or anything like that, but just start bringing awareness to where the money's going. And that it could technically, if you're going to do it that way, then you're reviewing your finances almost every day in a sense, but it's allowing you to build that awareness. Once you have that initial awareness and you're just moving forward with trying to maintain the flow and ensure that you have the money in the account for the bills and you're spending it at the right time and doing all of these things, I would honestly say at maximum my personal Saturday morning, I take 15-20 minutes. I check all the numbers. I make sure I know what needs to happen in the next week. I make sure I have enough money in the account for it. And I just plan from there. And so it doesn't have to be a really big time consuming thing. Once we're in the habit, once we're in process, then it can literally be 15 to 20 minutes to just double check where we spent our money, make sure we have enough money for the bills coming out, and then moving on. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like, as you were talking, I was feeling resistance coming up for me because I'm like, for myself, and I know for a lot of my ladies, ADHD and not remembering to track those things is going to be a real issue, like to try to build that up as a habit. And that's not like a mindset thing. That's a like how our brains are wired thing. But we also have our own resources for and like toolkits that we've built out for how we manage to remember other things in our lives. So apply that to this situation. I was like doing this conversation in my head, but trying to listen to you at the same time. I'm like, because I know that wouldn't have worked for me. But then I was like, no, maybe if I had just applied this method, then it would have, you know. Yeah. So I think that that's really good. I also think what was really key for me there was knowing that once there's a thing in place, that once I have this done, it's not going to be a huge maintenance thing. Because for me, it felt like the difficulty of getting it in place in the first place made me think that it was going to be huge ongoing. And so I was like, I don't want to commit to that. Like, I just don't. I will never, ever, ever maintain that. I choose not to. Right. Yeah. And it was like, but so like hearing 15 to 20 minutes to me, I'm like, I was thinking too, I'm like, well, even now that I have, like, I did go back, I did the 3-month thing. I went back and like did all the transactions and whatever. And for me, I've still been experiencing that resistance of like, I don't want to go and like make sure that things are what they are. And I don't want to go make sure that the money is there for those things coming up for the next week. And it still feels very intimidating to me to like see that whole big picture, know that I'm not allowed to spend something or, you know, whatever. It's like, I mean, it's part of growing up. I don't want to grow up.
It is part of growing up. And when it comes to that resistance, it may go back to that idea of the feeling yucky about giving somebody your money for bills and feeling like you shouldn't have to. And so there's a belief system somewhere under there that is playing out, that's making that be a piece of resistance. And so I would be curious.
I probably need to work with you on that. I've been thinking that since we started the conversation. I'm like, I just barely got to the point where I have it tracked. I probably should work with that. Because I want to maintain it. I really do. Like, there is that part of me that's just like, I don't want to be so pathetic that I like to, because it feels so pathetic to me to be bouncing. I'm like, I bring in good amounts of money. There's no reason for this, right? Like, I should not be struggling so hard. And yet there's that flip side where I'm like, but I don't want to buy the Oracle deck that I see right now. That's amazing. And I want to, you know, like, I need more crystals.
Yeah.
I can never, you know, I can't, like, growing up can be so hard.
Yeah,
It's very, very hard.
so
And I am very
hard.
much like a child at heart. I'll be 90 and sitting there like laughing my ass off with people. So it's just,
And there's nothing wrong with that. And the other thing too,
no, and I don't want to change
Yeah.
that. And so I think that's where I get a lot of that resistance to the things that are grown up and serious, right? I always have this fear that our tax accountant's going to question my business. Oh yeah, because you have a spiritual business, like an alternative, a healing business. What would you say to that, Dallas? Because that again is going to apply to several of our ladies here.
I would. There's two questions that come to mind. The first question is, has the tax accountant actually questioned the business before? And is that a fear built on foundation of something that's already happened? Or is that just a question of, I feel like I won't be understood? And it's that overall, like the spiritual realm is becoming more and more and more mainstream. And so there are accountants out there that are also spiritually based. And so it could be one of those things where it's a mismatch between the accountant and the person. He just wants the numbers. So yeah, that's exactly it. That is a judgment that we're putting on ourselves. And it's really at the end of the day, we have to let that go, for lack of a better term. And I know it's easier said than done, but it really does come down to what we do as spiritual individuals and healers and the businesses we run. It's becoming more and more and more acceptable and known and everything else like that. So,
and I mean, I'll be honest, I'm at the point where I'm like, my ex does not know that I'm a shamanic practitioner. No idea. Like, I'm like, maybe it will become so acceptable soon that I won't have to, like, it won't be shocking when I
right?
I'm totally avoiding that. Janine says, I don't want to do it so I can convince my inner toddler that I'm the adult driving the bus. Yeah, like literally. It's it's so bad. So okay, so you said about once a week is a good, like, for maintenance anyways, to do financial review. Okay. And her clarifier on that question was, does it matter employee versus self-employed?
So I don't know that it matters a ton, employee versus self-employed, because really the mechanics of money are pretty common between the two. The biggest difference is when you're self-employed, you have that ability to create more flexibility, because you can either choose to increase your income by charging more, or sell more services, or do something along those lines. Or in some aspects, you can even just like add services so that you have more ability to sell something that isn't fully hands-on. But when you are on a salary, then it comes down to, okay, if you only have X number of dollars coming in every 2 weeks, then there's just that inherent lack of flexibility, and you have to be more on point with what you're doing with your money and when. And that can be shifted. You could look at seeing if there's the ability to get a raise or do things like that. But at the end of the day, the once a week for that 15-20 minutes, making sure you're transferring money to the accounts that need the money, that should be good. It's just, again, that awareness around what is happening, what's coming up, what do you have for cash flow coming in, and really prioritizing what needs to be done. Because I can speak from personal experience as well. When you're constantly in that fear and that dread of, oh, I have to give this money and I won't be able to spend my own money. When you take it from that nasty word of, oh, I'm on a budget, which feels like, oh, I'm on a diet, that doesn't feel good. But if I change the script to, no, I'm the one that's in control of this, exactly, like I'm the adult, like one of our persons commented, it's not the toddler driving the bus anymore, I am the adult. It automatically gives that little bit more freedom. And it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be easy. There are going to be times that we slip up, but it's, do we slip up and recover quickly, or do we slip up and go into a spiral?
Right. Yeah, a downward spiral and just get stuck and be drowning. Yeah, I actually was like, as you were saying that, it was like reminding me last night I was talking about how, or I was talking about, I was writing out some of my story in relation to like what I'm doing in my business. And so this has nothing to do with the financial piece, but it's the same mindset shift of, when I managed to, so I'm doing a decluttering challenge, right? And when I managed to get a hold of my clutter, like get a handle on my life, get a handle on my clutter, get a handle on keeping house and like keeping my house clean and all of that, was when I decided I wanted it because I wanted it. Not because society expected it of me, not because my husband wanted it, not because my kids deserved to have it, nothing. It was like, no, I actually enjoy being in a clean space. So I'm the one that cares. And so I'm the one that's going to follow through. That made a huge difference. And so that's the same, to me, that's the same mindset shift of like, no, want to feel certain and safe with my money. I want to know that I'm going to be supported and have enough, right? So that's incredible. And that connection was really helpful for me. So I just wanted to share that. I think this might be a perfect wrap-up question, because we are like, it's incredible, like all the questions. People are so interested in this topic, Dallas. Usually I'm like, guys, ask me some questions so I can talk to you. So this is really incredible. I'm really excited about it. But I think this is a really good wrap-up question, just so that we're not going on for too long. I don't want to take too much of your time. What's the first step we should take to improve our money management? So like, just very clear and like cut and dry, right? What's the first thing that we can do to start heading in that direction?
It's honestly, grab your bank statements, grab your credit card statements, and create the awareness around where the money has been going already. And I can guarantee there are going to be some areas where it's like, oh snap, I didn't realize I was spending that much in that area. And that's really where you start. Like, number one is awareness. You can't fix something unless you're already aware of what's going on, or unless you're building that awareness of what's going on. And so it really does come down to, where are the numbers at? And that's the least fun part, but just consider the fact that you get to dig into the fun part on the other side of that, of creating that jigsaw puzzle and making it work together. And when something comes up and you feel that feeling of resistance or whatever it may be, then that gives you your clue that your next step is digging into why you have that particular piece of resistance. What are the feelings coming up? Where is it sitting in your body? What is the story that you're telling yourself about this?
Yes. Oh, I love that. And when you get to that point, realize that you need to work with Dallas, because she also helps with that part.
Yeah.
Which is with the realization I had getting on this call. I'm like, Janine says, yeah, amen to that, Brie. I had to convince myself that I deserved to join your declutter challenge, not out of guilt, not out of the shitty should-haves. It was for me to feel free to expand energetically. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's really incredible to me how tied in those things are. The declutter thing, I've had more than one person sign up that literally waited and was like, I need to be sure I'm not just doing this out of like desperation, that I'm actually doing this from a place of empowerment and energetic expansion. And that's incredible. I think that that's really, really powerful, that people are like, this is what I want. I don't want people signing up because they're like, it's going to be the magic pill. Like, no, it's not. It's work. It's work. And that you're saying the same thing. Like, we got to do the work, right? I know my money story belongs to my parents. One was a spender and the other was a pincher. Yeah. And that's the thing. We get so many stories thrown at us from every angle from such a young age. Like, even beyond that, you've got societal stuff, you've got teachers, other, friends, classmates, whatever, that had their stories that you overheard pieces of and integrated into your own. And it's so complex. So I think that that's incredible that you not only like take them through the concrete steps, right? And I think that that's really, really important, especially for people who like myself, or clearly several of the ladies here who are like, we just don't want to look at it. And that just feels so intimidating. So having someone to like kind of hold our hands through that, that's really helpful. But also be able to feel into the energy of it and feel the intuitive, like, okay, there's some anxiety going on here. What's going on? Or there's some, that's really powerful. So this is not really a question in the sense of like the questions these ladies have had, but if anybody would like to work with Dallas, how can we find you? Where's the best place to find you? Do you do online or only in person? Tell us a little bit about that. Like where do they head to work with you on any level, whether that's like, you know, free resources that you have to your most deep dive packages.
Okay, so right now I'm actually working on building out a couple of products, and they're not quite ready to go yet. So I will have an intro to the basics online course coming out soon. And I am also launching a mastermind in mid-March. So this mastermind, it's called a creation circle. It allows you to come in. We talk about different principles in life. And then I will be doing it's one person every month gets a hot seat, and we work through something that they're coming up against in their financial life. And so the great thing about that is every time there's somebody in the hot seat, everybody else gets a takeaway from it as well. We get to see ourselves mirrored back to us. And then outside of that, if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, you can find me at intuitivefinancialcoaching.ca, and I will put this in the chat. Or you can also just reach out to me via email or text message. So I'll pop my contact info into the chat, and anybody wants to reach out. But even if it's just to, feel it out, have a quick alignment call, just any alignment call, my discovery sessions, those I do complimentary, because I really believe in having people fully be comfortable with moving into the coaching service prior to spending any of their hard-earned dollars, because I know it can be scary. So
Absolutely it can be. That's amazing. The creation circle, are you doing that like based off of the one that we're in? Like it's the same idea, and but you are making it a financially focused one?
That is correct.
Oh, that's exciting. I want to know more about that.
Okay.
Is that going to be only in person? Like, is that going to be a local one, or is that going to be online?
I feel like I'm going to be doing it online, because there's so much.
Because you know me, I can't attend in person a lot of the time with my kids.
Yeah, leaning towards online, just because it creates more ease of access for people. And not only that, but if there's something that comes up and I have a resource, I can quickly pop a share screen on and we can go through it together. So it's exactly going to be like the creation circle that we're in together, but mine is going to be financially based for all of the hot seats.
That is super cool. And I definitely want to know about that as you build that out. That sounds amazing.
All right. I'm excited.
Keep me posted. That sounds incredible. Okay. So thank you again for coming. Thank you to everyone who joined us live. I'm blown away by the amount of questions on this one, Dallas. Like, you've hit a nail on the head for sure for something that people need and want, because wow. I don't usually get this much feedback. I don't think I've ever gone over an hour on one of my lives, because I'm like, hey, I have other questions. I got nothing else to talk about. So that's amazing. And Leanne says, well done. Love all of the information. Yeah, this has been really incredible. There's been lots of gold here.
Thank you.
Just very, very impressed with your wealth of knowledge, and very interested in the whole Reiki aspect to it, and bringing in that energy into the finances. because it just feels like such a boring, dry realm to me. So having the energy work come in is like, oh, that makes it exciting. Like maybe I don't hate it so much. Right? So.
Well, and that's exactly it. And what I found is when I bring the energy aspect into it, my clients see shifts so much faster. And so it just makes sense to me. And honestly, the one last thing I'll say is like, I believe you become the person you needed the most. And so I am trying to be that person for other people because I understand the struggles. I really, really do. I've been through it myself personally. And so it's very much leading from experience and
that is what I love about the self-employed coaching industry, because it's like, that is what we do, right? We follow, okay, this is where my life was impossible and I overcame it. And so now I can help other people. And when they come to me, even though I may be in this amazing space now, I am not judging them. They're coming to you without that judgment that they're afraid of in the more like corporate boxed in whatever aspect. So I absolutely adore it. Thank you so much for your time, Brianna Dallas. It means so much to me to allow myself to let my mindset become a positive experience when it comes to my money story. Yeah, and I think it does for us all. So thank you so much, Dallas. This was really incredible.
I
appreciate
the opportunity to do this with you. Thank you so much, Bri.
Awesome. So make sure that you drop your information in the chat before you like decide to, clear out the group or whatever. I totally get not keeping on the things that you're not going to use. So clearly, as I'm doing the decluttering challenge, but definitely make sure that we can access your information. This was incredible.
Awesome. So, I will do that. I'll pop it in as soon as I log off here. I'll pop it into the chat below the live.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. We'll talk to you all soon. Love you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening in. I hope this training was exactly what you needed when you needed it. If it brought you value, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with anyone it may help. And if you're ready for high value coaching support and powerful sisterhood with other women in business, all at a record low price, crawl on over into the Butterfly Network membership, Caterpillar. Let's get you your wings.